Good evening, everyone. Rager here, back with another Godforge video. In today's video, we're going to be reacting to the latest video put out by Susie from the Fateless team, and we're just going to sort of discuss that all together. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So I'm just going to leave Susie on mute in the background for a moment. Now, what she's explaining is the premise of this video that they did one a few weeks ago where they pulled out Discord comments and Simon commented on them. And what she's going to be doing this time, she's going to be something similar, but she's going to be pulling from the YouTube comments. However, rather than sort of Susie commenting on them by herself, she's also asking for our feedback in the comments below. So I will go do that, but I thought I'd also make a video on it and to give my opinions. She also explains that she is doing this video because Simon and Dan are away on holiday in the Alps in Simon's Lamborghinis, and she was kind enough to send us a few pictures through. So whilst they're driving, let's take a look and see what the various people have to say.
For sake of discussion, let's inspire, right? Let's inspire. So let's dive in. All right, so first up here, varied backgrounds. This was a comment from Zipster. I love this one. I actually shared it with the staff this morning. So he says, love these videos. So much work is going into one character that people don't realize. She's definitely my favorite so far. So this was the Hell video, of course.
Of course.
I wish she had a darker background, though. I know they are faction specific, but it does take away from the character.
So I actually really like this idea by Zipster, and I do get where they are coming from. Obviously, Hel, Queen of Helheim, the underworld, if you will, for Norse, doesn't quite fit the metric of the sunny background that we currently have on Asgard. And as you can see here, we do have this sort of, whilst it's not like the sunniest tropical paradise, as I say, it doesn't quite fit the mold that Hell is giving off. So I do like the sort of night and day sort of feel. But also, I also think it does come down to environment a little bit as well, because if we take a look at the Kajiki faction level, we can see that we have a very, very different sort of environment. Now, I actually do like this sort of dark, brooding sort of outlook that the Kajiki level has. I love the mist, the sort of fog just sort of sat across the level. And so I think having someone like Hel in this kind of environment would look a lot better. So very, very different, and does sort of suit that character certainly a lot more. And, you know, as this person says, the backgrounds are faction specific, so what they could do to change that, I don't know. But yeah, maybe a day or a night would certainly sort of look better. It would also make it easier on people's phones, I think, as well, when it comes to sort of battery life, having sort of darker settings. So I was a big fan of this one.
We have this real-world inspiration. So this is Cleo McKenzie. Cleo McKenzie? I'm gonna butcher names.
Cleo.
Sorry,
That's definitely Cleo.
To our last beta video. Great update. Thanks, Simon. It's a little thing, but I have to say that I really like the look of the Japanese environments. I think it's a big plus for Godforge that your aesthetic is tied to real-world cultures and traditions. It gives the game a lot of flavor. Okay, we have the Japanese faction Kojiki, right? There are obvious architectural things you're gonna notice that look like it's really in Japan. There's going to be things that stick out like that. What about, okay, the Aru faction? We better see some pyramids, right? It's Egypt. What other examples do you guys have related to our 10 factions? So that's something I think would be really fun to hear about, some atmospheric things in the environment that you really hope to see based on the regions that we have included. So obviously things are a bit regional based, like we said in the last comment, but I really want to know what sticks out to you. What's going to make you be excited to be like, oh my gosh, they actually included that.
So, again, another good sort of comment to raise. So, yeah, I'm with Cleo on this one. I like the fact that we're going to have different environments which sort of fit the theme of the faction. Now, Sue's saying, what would we like to see? I think they've pretty much nailed it so far. I think, one thing that you will see sort of some similarities, I suppose, will be between the buildings of the Jade and Kojiki. Sort of at least ancient Chinese and Japanese castles did have some similarities about them. Now, I'm not saying they were all exactly the same, but there were some similarities. However, if we look at some of sort of the Jade images that we've seen so far, so as you can see, some of the buildings might look the same, but they've gone for a very much brighter feel in this one. You're going to be seeing a lot of Jade statues around, as opposed to sort of the sort of lanterns, if you will. As you say, two completely different vibes, even though the buildings have sort of similar sort of roofing and that kind of thing. So when it comes to what would I like to see, there's a few things that I sort of look out for personally. I like it when the Fateless team are true to the source material, essentially. All right. I like things to have an authentic feel. Now, yes, there is a certain sort of allowance for artistic licensing, that kind of thing. After all, it is their game. But when it comes to the environments, I do think they should stay true to the source material. So something that I would love to see, especially for the Olympus faction somewhere, I'd love to see some of the famous sort of pinnacle real buildings. For example, like the Parthenon in Greece, the sort of I think it was the ivory statue of Zeus, the Colossus of Rhodes, just to name a few. If they could fit some of those into the game, even if it is just in sort of the small items that are on the map view, if you will, something like that would be cool to see for that point of view. And Jade and Kojiki, I think they're pretty nailed on. Same with Saber, from what we've seen with the concept arts and things so far. I think that's pretty good. Now, one thing that does remain a massive mystery to everyone here is the Svarga, or the Hindi sort of faction, if you will. And again, I'd like them to remain sort of true to the architecture that you see in society. So if we flip to a website just here, and we take a look at the website of some of the most famous Hindi temples in the world, you'll see some very similar sort of things. So Virupaksha Temple, this is in northern India, I believe, has this sort of very specific, might not be the right word, but something you would see every day. Okay, like the shaping here, the models that are actually on the side, statuettes, are all very sort of unique to this sort of style. City of Hampi in India. There you go. If we move down to Prambanan, you say they all have this sort of cone sort of shape on the roof. Okay. Not sure where this one is. This is in Indonesia. So then we got Meenakshi Aman, again in India. Again, we have that. Okay, whilst it is more rectangular rather than sort of cylindrical, again, we have that very sort of similar shape moving up to the top. This one is obviously a lot more colourful outside with the statuettes. And then lastly, probably one of the most famous of them all, at least a lot of people have heard them, is Angkor Wat in Cambodia, part of the Khmer Empire. Again, while slightly different shaped, the style of the roofs and that coinage, they're all very similar. So that's the sort of thing that I would like to see, especially for the Svarga faction. And the same can be said for the Viraj faction, the Slavic sort of. The Orthodox churches are all very similar, or they have similarities. Most of the time, again, it's on the roofs where we have these sort of domes, if you will. Now, this one's actually the People's Salvation in Bucharest, but we also have some in Belgrade, a lot, obviously, in Russia, St. Isaac's Cathedral, the most famous being the one in the Red Square. I think it's St. Basil's Cathedral. So this is the one in Belgrade. Again, we have the sort of the domed structure there. And let's just pull out another one from, let's go to places that are not necessarily Russia. Again, here's another one. So, again, they all have similarities that, again, for me personally, would like the Fateless team to stay true to.
Onto a topic that's related to the aesthetics of heroes. So
Okay.
this comment is from Leslie Ducoing. Sorry, I'm probably butchering that again. Make skins matter is the topic. So this is a hot topic. Okay, so this person says, if you do skins in the game for champs like Raid or Watcher, please be more like Watcher, where it actually improves the heroes. Don't try to waste the money to just buy these things to make our heroes look cooler. Do you agree? This one is definitely a hot topic. Personally, as a player, I think a game needs to go one of two ways. Either you do a skin and it's purely aesthetic only, or you do a skin and it has a real stat and that is what it is. I actually don't like that Watcher has like a plus 0.07% or what, plus 0.7%, plus 1%. You're like, why even put the stat on there first place? You just make people angry. But some people want the stats on skins. They want to buy something that matters. So what do you think, guys? This is in no relation to how we're going, again, the direction of our game. I don't know our stance on monetization of skins regarding how the skins are actually going to be, if it's 100% aesthetic only, or if there will be any sort of bonus at all. I don't know yet, but that might be something we have to talk about as a company, so definitely let us know your thoughts on this below. I think it's a really hot topic. It gets mentioned a lot, and like I said, I have my personal opinions as a gamer. I think it should just be, I like a skin as a skin. You just want to see something look cool, so you're willing to spend or to grind an event to get that because it looks cool. And I think it's a nice way for games to monetize sometimes in a pretty tame way that doesn't affect the free-to-play versus pay-to-win experience. So I like skins, but are we...
I fundamentally disagree with Leslie Decoing. I'm very sorry. I did not know that Watcher did this. I haven't played Watcher for a while, but I think that's a terrible idea. Sort of Susie has related to there, skins shouldn't have to come with some sort of stat increase. People would buy these cosmetics for the sake of buying the cosmetics because they like the way it looks, they like the change in aesthetic, that kind of thing. You look at Call of Duty, for example. I couldn't tell you how many gun skins and things I've worked for over the years. Fortnite, I think, do the same. There are many games that you can buy cosmetics where they don't actually affect the rest of the player base. It's a very good way for Fateless to monetize their game, say, without pissing off the free-to-play players. So, no, I 100% disagree with this. And, actually it might even sort of put me off sort of playing the game. The whales are going to whale. They're going to be strong anyway. There's no need to give them the extra boost, even if it is just 1-2%. Now, the counter-argument to that is, oh, well, that 1-2% will help the non-whales catch up. But are you going to tell me that if there is a stat increase from a skin, that the people who are trying to be number one are not going to buy it? I don't think so. So, yeah. I love cosmetics. I love the idea of bringing them in. It's a way for the company to make money without affecting the rest of the player base. Do not do what Leslie has suggested. Leslie, nothing personal against you. Sure, you're a lovely person. But as I say, I fundamentally disagree with this point.
Another just super quick, very simple comment here that I actually thought would be a fun discussion as well. Voiceovers in-game. What do you guys like? What don't you like? I really want to know because this is something I'm very torn on. This person, let's see, Avina C says, add voice lines to each of them also, please. I think this is in relation to when we were showing the animations of the heroes while they're fighting. Add voice lines. Or are voice lines annoying? I think this is one of those things that can go either way. Where do you like to see a voiceovers in a game? Do you like to have the story narrated with a voice actor? Or do you just skip it? Do you like to have a tutorial narrated? What about that? What about a tutorial having a voiceover that as you go through it, they're telling you what to do with an actual voice actor. That's something I've only seen a couple times. Or what about during a battle? When a character does their animation, do you want to hear them say certain things? Do you want to have that, like, funny line that you always hear? Or does that get monotonous? You're like, okay, I've heard you say that same thing 20 times. I don't want to hear it anymore. Or should it be reserved for something special? Maybe when you summon a character, there's a special voiceover that they have, a line that they say when you summon them. So that way it kind of feels like you know you're so excited to hear that special line when you finally get that character you want. What about that? I'd love to hear some thoughts on the topic of voice lines in games as well. All right.
Okay, so voice lines. Personally, actually, I just had a thought. I think it would be awesome for one reason. So, Susie said when you summon the character, sometimes I think it's cool that, let's say it's like a black screen and you hear, like, I don't know, let's say you've pulled Zeus, he could say something like, "Welcome to Mount Olympus," or something along those lines, and then Zeus is revealed. Maybe not quite something quite as obvious as that, but then it sort of builds excitement. At least for me, it's like, oh my god, whose voice is that? And over time, you'll get used to it, obviously. But certainly in the beginning parts of the game, I do think it adds a little bit of excitement. I also like the idea of having some voice lines for the tutorial, like with Raid, and they have the Arbiter sort of talking you through it. From 2 points sort of thing, but mainly, some people are visually impaired. Now, they might not be visually impaired enough to stop them playing the game, but just having that sort of, just having that sound just to help guide players where they are through the tutorial, at least in the beginning, I think it's good. Then it will sort of eventually become second nature and you'll know where everything is. So I do think it helps from that point of view as well. In the story as well, sort of especially between levels, again, I do think you should have it. Even if people skip it, I tend to skip a lot of them, to be fair, because I just want to get through it as fast as possible. So, but I do think that you should have that as well. And it appears that they have gone down that route in sort of the, the end of the campaign. There's like the Aru level. There was a quick sort of story that Simon showed us, but he didn't want to show us all of it because it was meant for the demos. He didn't want to spoil some of the lore. So I do think that they should be there. The heroes themselves in the battle, don't know. I'm really unsure. I don't think it's necessary. Especially, I don't know, because then the way it takes me back to is when you watch tennis, all the silly grunts that they make. Like, that's not what I want to hear in the game. So, I don't want them in the fights, but I do like the idea of having the voice lines in general. And I think what would be really cool, right? Hear me out. Is if you are a beta tester, Simon, Dan, and Cham do voice lines for a particular character that you unlock if you're a beta tester, something like that. Simon being the old man is Zeus. Maybe Fiction is Hercules. And, Sham, because he's the pretty one, could be Aphrodite. Something like that. They did their own voice lines. I think that would be really cool.
And of course, if you haven't already, guys, make sure you sign up for the beta. The mailing list is going to be how you find out what the next steps are.
So there you go. That is the end of the video. I just thought I'd leave that little bit in there. So you guys don't forget to sign up to the beta. As always, thank you for taking the time to watch this. Don't forget, if you've got any sort of opinions on any of this, you can comment on the YouTube video themselves, or you can comment on here. I'm sure they read mine occasionally as well. Remember to take care, look after yourselves, work hard, but as always, play harder, and I'll see you in another one soon. Cheers.